chosen to stop apologizing for being redundant in my stories and particularly my use of poems. And as I was on a trail run this week, I was thinking about that relationship between koans and poems. Right? A koan is this sort of unsolvable riddle. It's kind of in the Buddhist tradition. Oftentimes, the monk or the teacher will offer a koan, kind of the riddle. And like when I was sitting with the Buddhist monk in Korea, sitting there meditating, he offered a koan. He's like, "What is the price of the wind blowing through the pines?" And you're like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, how do you even approach something like that? What is the price of the wind blowing through the pines? And I had recently graduated as a English major, so I was, adept at being able to like pull symbolism out of the ether. And he was like, you don't just figure this out. In fact, the whole idea of a koan is to help you step outside of that rational, logical thinking mind. The point is, it doesn't make sense, and you have to approach it from an experience of something so much deeper. And as you experience this deeper connection to some larger thing, this will kind of illuminate. It's kind of a driver to help you come into this thing. But again, it's kind of a reflection of, testament of, if you will, of it kind of articulates what's about to happen as you continue along your pathway of awakening. And so I love how a lot of poems, for me anyway, especially operate in the same, hold the same function. And of course, I'm thinking of Mary Oliver. The reason I come back to Mary Oliver over and over again is because she is both so approachable. You can get this. It's anchored in the natural world. Her poems don't go on for pages and pages and pages. And she's just such a ninja at being able to condense it down to this little thing that can be read on so many layers. It's just beautiful the way she speaks about nature, pure and simple, period, full stop. And her method of awakening, awakening to the truth of all things, has been through being observant of the natural world, and she invites us along that journey. So the poem I want to share today is Bone by Mary Oliver. And again, we probably all have this memorized. And for me, about a year ago, when I did my most recent shamanic journey in Colombia with the teacher I go there to see, one of the big, I had many revelations there, but one of them was I need to start memorizing these poems. I've been reading them for decades, and I need to really commit them to heart. And it's been interesting to see. It's exactly what my jazz saxophone teacher tells me. It's like once you memorize these things, the songs or the thing comes open in really rich, interesting ways. And so this is one of those poems that, since I've been reading for so many years, I have committed to memory. And as I continue to go through it, new things, again, like in that fractalized, every time I come back around to the poem, so I'm coming around the poem with short rotations, and each time I come back around, it's a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, right? And after a couple decades, man, what I'm gaining, the level of insight that I'm gaining from that same poem continues to reveal itself in deep and deeper ways. I think if I, read the poem and think, oh yeah, I've gotten everything that poem has to give me, I'd be really missing out on such a breadth of juiciness. So I want to share this poem with you. I'm going to put up on the screen so you can kind of see it. And again, it's a poem that I come back to over and over and over again. Here's Mary Oliver. And this really came as I was trying to explain in the Yoga Nidra teacher training program what it is that Yoga Nidra is doing, how it functions to illuminate the thing that is very deep and integral inside of us. We were exploring the notion of how through all the things that are the illusion, in other words, the ego, how it reveals that which is true, which is my true self, right? So at first it seems like what I can't see, touch, feel, that's the illusion. It doesn't really exist. And what does exist is something, that I can touch, feel, see, hear, and this kind of stuff. And yet what happens is we continue to do practices like Yoga Nidra. We start to see that through all the things that I can be aware of, I reveal awareness itself. And then I realize, I re-identify like, oh, that's what's real, is awareness. And this is the illusion because it's always constantly changing. And in truth, this practice helps us come to that both and beautiful reconnection where I re-identify as awareness, remarried back to the object. And that's what we're doing as we're going forward. Not from a this versus that, but in a both and approach. And so Mary Oliver articulates this so perfectly. I want to read it through once, and then I want to break it down to kind of share with you a little bit where my imagination and my heart, my understanding has been sort of illuminated recently with this poem, Bone. Understand, I am always trying to figure out what the soul is, and where hidden and what shape. And so last week when I found on the beach the ear bone of a pilot whale that may have died hundreds of years ago, I thought maybe I was close to discovering something. For the ear bone is the portion that lasts longest in any of us, man or whale, shaped like a squat spoon with a pink scoop where once in the lively swimmer's head it joined its two sisters in the house of hearing. It was only 2 inches long, and thought the soul might be like this, so hard, so necessary, yet almost nothing. Beside me, the gray sea was opening and shutting its wave doors, unfolding over and over its time-ridiculing roar. I looked, but I couldn't see anything through its dark-knit glare. Yet, don't we all know, the golden sand is there at the bottom. Though our eyes have never seen it, nor can our hands ever catch it, lest we would sift it down into fractions and facts, certainties. And what the soul is also, I believe, I will never quite know, though I play at the edges of knowing. Truly, I know our part is not knowing, but looking and touching and loving, which is the way I walked on softly through the pale pink morning light. One of the reasons this poem is so potent for me is because for me it's literally her moment, her moment of dawning of consciousness. It's that moment where she wakes up to some larger truth. And here she is, she's speaking of, she's right off the bat, she says, I'm always trying to figure out what the soul is. I'm trying to figure it out. It's a mental exercise, right? If I could just decipher it, if I could crack the code on things, I'm trying to figure it out and how practical it is. I'm looking at it from this practical approach, what shape is it? Where is it hidden? And then she finds this object, this ear bone of a pilot whale that may have died hundreds of years ago. I thought maybe I was close to discovering something. For the ear bone is the portion that lasts longest in any of us, man or whale, shaped like a squat spoon with a pink scoop, where once in the lively swimmer's head it joined its two sisters in the house of hearing, pause, right? This big, long sentence. And what she's saying here in no uncertain terms is just like this ear bone, she's totally in her head. She's totally trying to figure it out, trying to look at it from this practical approach. And she's showing us her evolution as she goes through. She's trying to figure it out, and she's looking at this thing and like, maybe the soul is like this. It's hard, it's necessary, but it's almost nothing, right? And then she says, beside me, and so then she makes a switch. And now the whole poem changes, and now she's looking beside her. There's some different thing. She's got the ear bone, and now she's looking into the ocean. And the ocean here, then things get more mystical. They get metaphorical, and she starts to get, the ocean has long since been this metaphor for consciousness, right? I am both the wave and the ocean simultaneously, right? Beside me, the gray sea was opening and shutting its wave doors. Reminds me of a poem from David White. He said, in his poem, Everything's Waiting for You, the doors have always been there to frighten us and invite us. And I love this kind of notion, like these opening and shutting its wave doors. There's these doors that are frightening us, inviting us to walk through into deeper realms, into deeper experiences of ourselves, right? It's opening and shutting. And I love this line, unfolding over and over its time-ridiculing roar. That roar, if we could decode it, every time a wave crashes is simply saying the word now, now, now. That's why it's time ridiculing, because, it will go on forever, and it has been going on forever, and it's still always now. So it ridicules, it laughs in the face of time, and each one of those waves is a laugh, saying, hey, there's just here, there's just now. And she looked, but she couldn't see anything through its dark knit glare. And I love this idea, the dark knit glare, the furrowed brow. It's not just going to give it away for you. It looks sort of ominous. And yet she's drawing this beautiful parallel here. But even though the ocean seems dark, right, foreboding, it seems like ominous here, we all know that the golden sand is there at the bottom. Even though our eyes have never seen it, nor can our hands ever catch it, lest we would sift it down into fractions and facts, certainties, okay? And so what she's saying is she's kind of rebuking herself here, because she's saying, hey, you know what? I wanted to figure out what the soul is. I wanted to figure out what shape and where it's hidden. And, I wanted to know it the same way I'm sort of saying. But in truth, as I'm really thinking about consciousness, I really know that the truth is down there somewhere. But we can't see it, and we can't touch it, because we would want to pull it out and look at, just like this ear bone, and say, hey, this is a thing, and I can prove it because of the thing right here. And then she does this, and this is how she's shifting now. This is the next section. She's shifting away from certainties, and this is that kind of waking up from her naivety of trying to figure it out. She's realizes I was so in my head, and now I realize that, this isn't trying to figure it out. And what the soul is also, I believe I will never quite know. This isn't about intellectualizing. It's not about trying to figure it out. Though I play at the edges of knowing, she's acknowledging the fact that, that's part of the process. We play at the edges, yes, but it's not about knowing. But what she does know is that our part is not knowing. It's not intellectual. And here's the killer, right? Here's the whole, this is the illuminating moment. But looking and touching and loving, right? And what she's saying there is in the gerund form, like the present perfect. I am doing something. I am looking, I am touching, I am loving. It is through the continual action of my senses, by seeing things, by touching things. In other words, by all the things I can look at, by all the things I can touch, and most poignantly, by all the things I can love, I'm revealing that golden sand there at the bottom. By looking at these things, in other words, by all the things I can be aware of, I'm revealing awareness itself. And that it's like the Cohen, what is the price of the wind blowing through the pines? After a while, for a while, you start to see wind, you start to see the trees blowing. And after a while, you stop seeing the trees blow. And instead, you start to see how the trees are simply revealing the wind. And you can never go back to just seeing the simple trees move again. Now you start to see, through all the things that you can be aware of, in this sense, the trees, I'm revealing the otherwise invisible thing. And this is her moment. She understands finally what the soul is. And I discover this not by literally touching it, but in the act of touching, in the act of looking, in the act of, in particular, loving, that reveals to me that thing that I've always looked at. And again, she was looking at this from such a practical, myopic, intellectual kind of way, and then realized that, the metaphor of the ocean opened her up to realize that, oh yeah, this is something so much bigger. And then she does this thing, which is the way I walked on softly through the pale pink morning light. She gets it now. And she's just living her life in this ritual, in this daily moment by moment ritual of looking and touching and loving as her testament of awakening, of being in conversation with all things, with consciousness itself. And again, that last most poignant line, which is the way I walked on softly, not in her head anymore, right? She's not these long verbose sentences. This is a word. It's the way I walked on softly through the pale pink morning light. And she makes this beautiful allusion back to the pale pink scoop in the lively swimmer's head, right? She is doing that beautiful both and thing. She graduated from having to need to know something in the egoic realm, the intellectual realm, the tactile physical realm, into the consciousness realm, and then marries the two at the end beautifully, not in her head, but just totally engaged in the process. And of course, the pale pink morning light isn't only that callback to the ear bone, but it's also literally, as the sun is rising, right? She is speaking to the dawning of her own consciousness. So again, it's a poem that I've read 40 bajillion times, and yet it took 40 bajillion and one to start to reveal this in a way that was just so potent for me. And so thank you for indulging me. As we're beginning this Yoga Nidra practice, let's start by setting up, lying down on the floor or sitting or whatever is most comfortable for you, somewhere where we can definitely be comfortable. And as we're starting our practice, I want to start by touching into the body, just noticing the way the body feels. What I'm going to suggest we do is we take either a big X in the body or a big full body stretch with the arms overhead, and just take a couple of deep breaths with the arms stretching. Of course, there's no strain in practice. We just need to feel this thing, Like Mary Oliver says, in that both and relationship of part of us that is physical, that wants to figure things out, and the part of us that just knows some deeper thing, that hidden thing. As we are consciously moving, touching, looking, touching, and loving, as we're consciously doing that thing, we are marrying that unknown everything with that practical this thing, If it serves you to do so, I encourage you to pull your knees into your chest, give yourself a little bear hug. And just notice the experience, tactile awareness, how your legs feel, how your chest feels, how your breath feels. And I like to do this with my eyes closed because it really internalizes the experience for me. Another something my saxophone teacher told me, if you can practice with your eyes closed, it internalizes it so much deeper. Zen in the art of saxophone maintenance. When you're ready to, I invite you to feel into a pose that your body would appreciate. And as you do so, maintain some deep breaths. If you know Ujjayi breath, we'll do that. But as you're doing this breathing, look, touch, and love. In other words, just really be saturated in your senses of the experience as you're welcoming that into your awareness. Recognize the sensation and, drill down on that. I feel this in the hip, or I feel this in the, back. Noticing how my breath is changing this, and then I'm just practicing witnessing. Switch sides if you have a pose where you're doing both sides. And notice how similar or different this side is to the other as we welcome, recognize, and witness. No judgment, healthy dose of curiosity. Of course, we can respond if we're getting some information like, oh man, that's a little too deep, or man, that feels good. I could use a little bit more of that. Of course, we can respond to that witnessing by changing the pose, alter the pose, keep the pose the same, breathe deeper. When you feel like you've connected to the body in that way, I'm going to encourage you to move into a breathing practice, a few belly breaths. Maintain your ujjayi breath, put your hands on your belly. And as you're breathing in, count to 5 as you breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold the breath for just a hot second. And as you exhale, breathe out for 8 counts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And hold your breath for 3. 2, 3. Breathe in for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Allowing the belly to rise. And as you exhale, slowly breathe back out to the belly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. 2, 3. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Long exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. 2, 3. Last round. 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. 2, 3. Allow yourself to breathe easily and naturally. Perhaps you're still allowing your belly to rise and fall deliberately a few times. But then sooner or later, I'm going to encourage you to allow your breath to move into whatever feels easy and natural without any more effort to breathe. As we move into the Yoga Nidra portion of this practice, I encourage you to get extremely relaxed. After all relaxation is kind of the name of the game here. And in this state of deep relaxation, I'm going to encourage you to welcome, recognize, and witness any way in which your body is feeling whatever it's feeling. Notice how your arms are feeling. Check in to see if they might be able to relax a little bit more. Notice how your legs are feeling and see if you might be able to relax a little bit more. Torso, face, just curious. Now, if you could take an inventory head to toe and perhaps relax 10% more than you are relaxed in this moment. Do whatever you need to do to even just get 10% more relaxed. And as you're doing so, remember that there's no way to do this incorrectly. We're merely going to acknowledge and welcome whatever is arising moment by moment. And recognize it, give it a name. That is a thought, or that is sensation. That is something I can see. And I'm going to simply be the witness. That's all we're doing. If something arises that I don't want to work on today, and since presence is really the game here, just train your presence on something else. Feels safer, or that you want to work with today. Otherwise, just allow. And again, if you could relax even a little bit more, do whatever you need to do to relax just a little bit deeper into our process. Through this process of deepening relaxation, we're going to move our consciousness into this Nidra state, this place between waking and dreaming. So we're supposed to be moving in and out. If you end up going all the way into sleep, that's fine. The part of you I'm speaking to is still paying attention. And if you end up staying in full consciousness, that's also fine. Full waking consciousness. That's fine, because the part of you that I'm speaking to is always paying attention. As you're relaxing, if you have a particular intention for today's practice, set that up here. Set that intention with a positive statement of truth. Something like, I am revealing, fill in the blank. I have everything inside of me necessary for, fill in the blank. Any I am statement suffices. The simple declaration, I am, speaks to that as well. As you're relaxing, I like to leverage this incredible teacher of our physical body, constantly parading objects in the form of sensation past our awareness. Like John O'Donohue says, have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. There's a learning, a worshipfulness that can happen in the simplest of acknowledgments of the information that's coming in through your senses. So as you're relaxing your body here, I invite you to open in broad awareness as to any way in which your body is communicating with you in this moment. What are you feeling? Perhaps it's temperature, presence of a blanket, article of clothing on your skin, sensation of your tongue in your mouth. Choose some part of your body that just holds your attention. Relax into it. And even if it's not your favorite sensation, can you just acknowledge it? And nonetheless, call it by its name. That sensation. And recognize it for all the ways it is affecting your being. Perhaps that sensation also evokes an emotion, conjures a memory, radiates to another sensation in a different part of the body. You're merely the witness without the need to change or fix or do anything. You're just witnessing. And yet after witnessing, if it feels necessary to respond, feel free to change your position or respond in any certain way. I invite you to explore the body and notice if there's any other part of your body that seems to be calling your attention. Or just choose a different part of your body. Go through the same protocol as you welcome or at least acknowledge this part of your physical body that is calling your attention. As much as possible, relax around that part. And just become curious as you recognize where and how you're feeling this sensation. And be curious also, any way in which this sensation may respond to or maybe evoke other parts of your being, a memory, an emotion, other sensation, etc. Can you merely observe? You're the observer. To bring your attention back to that first object, that first part of your body that you were aware of. Notice if it feels the same or different. Perhaps your awareness of the object feels the same or different. As you welcome, recognize, and witness. Then go back to the second part of your body you had noticed. And do the same. Welcome, recognize, and witness. Notice if it's similar or different. Now I invite you to expand your experience larger than trying to figure this out. And my invitation is to feel both of these parts of your body at the same time. It doesn't have to make sense. Endeavor to open your awareness to feel both these parts of your body at the same time. Now notice that you're noticing. And notice that by all the things that you can be aware of, you are in fact revealing awareness itself. Take on this awareness as your true self, your identity. This is what you are. Your awareness itself, experiencing itself in the form of body. Again, by all the things you can be aware of, you're revealing awareness itself. As awareness, I invite you to observe the experience of your body relaxing. As I bring your attention to these different body parts, allow each of those body parts to settle and relax. Start with your face and simply be aware of the face. Welcome, recognize, witness face as you allow it to relax. Be awareness itself, simply experiencing the back and crown of your head relaxing. As awareness, go inside central command in your brain and just turn the volume down. It's okay if you don't pick all of this up. We are running a program that's happening mostly behind the scenes anyway. So relax, knowing that the work is being done, but on a much more profound level. Turn down the need to focus or remember. Turn off the need to do anything. And allow this ease to begin to travel down to neck and shoulders. Down through your arms. Allow both of your arms to relax fully. Allow your torso to settle. Your breathing is automatic, soft. Allow your entire lower half to relax. Hips to knees. Lower legs and feet. Feel your entire body as one sort of antenna of sensation. All these things you can notice, anchoring you to attention. And again, notice that you are in fact noticing. Become the noticing itself. Trying on all of these sensations like a costume. As awareness itself, I invite you to see in the eyes of your awareness a moment, either real or imagined, where you're in a place you love to be. In a time, real or so instead of pretending or imagining, see with the eyes of your awareness. And let this, in fact, come through as if seeing through your own eyes, not imagining yourself seeing, but seeing as if through your own eyes, the scene, a place you love to be. Begin to fill in all the details. Are you indoors or outdoors? Are you alone or by yourself? And as you're feeling this experience, really make it come alive using your senses. Notice, what is your body feeling? What is the temperature like? Does your body feel light or grounded? Are you resting or are you active? And which parts of your body do you feel? Maybe you're in connection with some elements. Water, air, wind, sun, perhaps. As you're having this experience, I invite you to see yourself fully open to this moment, just luxuriating in a rich and primed sense of presence. Your complete attention is anchored on the simple pleasure of the moment. Whatever you're doing in this moment, all of your senses are completely alive. Notice what continues to evoke emotions, perhaps, thoughts, other images. See as if through your own eyes, not as if you're watching yourself have the experience, but see as if through your own eyes, having the experience with your own senses. As of this moment, doing exactly what you're doing is the full measure of waking up. Notice whatever you're noticing. Be the noticing. Now, I want you to see yourself applying the same quality of rich noticing to basic everyday kinds of things. Choosing those little daily rituals of food, making some tea or coffee, petting your cat, sitting by the fire, whatever it is that you like to do. Reveling and really basking in that moment of deep presence, the simple pleasures. And in this awareness, come back to the physical body, having this experience right now, lying on the floor or sitting, with this deepened sort of awareness whose volume's been turned up. Kind of notice the body kind of alive with sensation, how it feels, what's happening. In your mind's eye, trace the outline of your body. Come back to this comfortable feeling of body. and invite you to take this deep and prolonged moment of presence, and we're going to move eventually back into our everyday. And just kind of bring ourselves back online here a little bit. We're going to find ourselves moving into a more conscious approach, a more appreciative presence of every moment of every day. Even those moments that perhaps we wouldn't have considered to be our favorite experiences, even those will be a beautiful opportunity to practice wonderful presence. So in a moment I'm going to count down from 5. And as I do so, this is going to signal the end of our Yoga Nidra practice as we move back out into our everyday, looking, touching, and loving as our testaments of marriage, the marriage of our consciousness and our everyday life. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yoga Nidra is over.